Today we're talking about essentially the journey of life, and the title that I was given to speak on today was The Journey is the Destination, and I realized as I was preparing I have no idea what that means. It's almost like you should have more emphasis on the going than the getting there, and I think that makes sense. In some places it's not true at all. Like first thing in the morning, as you stumble toward the bathroom, it's not the getting there, it's the being there, getting to the... That's really more true. But then on the other hand, if you live your whole life as though it's about getting to some place and you miss the many years in between, that is between where you are now and where you think you want to be, that is a real tragedy. And so perspective on this whole question about destination or journey, I think without an intended destination, your journey becomes quite fuzzy at best. It lacks the poignancy of knowing where you're going and pushing towards something, and the transformation that happens because you have to overcome your resistance to doing something or becoming something or learning something or not doing something. That without the discipline of wanting to be somewhere, going somewhere, you will not probably travel as well as you might. And yet, I ran the Grand Canyon as a river guide for many years, and one of the things I noticed is that we would start a 2-week trip with not the intention of getting to the end. We would get there, but that was hardly the focus of the trip. As if it had been, it would have been a very crummy trip. The takeout really isn't a very nice place. But in between, fantastic. And so when we're living our life, I think it's really important that we keep some perspective about what life is really about to the best of our ability. You know, in a world that is based so much on merit, that is based so much of getting and achieving, we can easily get distracted that is what it's all about. But as Alfie can't tell you, that isn't what it's all about. More to the point, this, if you take it at its ultimate, I think, let's take it as an ultimate. Start as a single cell formed 2 billion years ago on Earth. And it's been evolving. Life itself has been evolving and has brought us to this quite complicated place where we're smart enough to make machines smarter than we are. This evolution, I doubt, was intended to stop here with the iPhone 15. Instead, this is an evolution of awakening from being asleep as a stone or as mineral to being a moving creature to being an awake being who knows they are living and has ideas about what living should be and can imagine what goes on beyond this. But if you even get to be one of the most advanced humans on Earth at this point, it's not hard to imagine that would seem like a regressive place at some point in the future. That if it's only about getting somewhere, we will be billions of years more in the process of getting. And the poor single-cell organism and all the creatures in between will have been just steps along the way. That would seem ridiculous, wouldn't it? An incredible waste of energy, of effort, of experience. I was talking with we do a class here on Thursdays, and it's a discussion about spiritual ideas or personal ideas. And one of the things that I was reminded of was what's called process theology. Process theology is hardly talked about at all anymore. Basically, it says that it's so anthropomorphic, I think that's why it's hardly talked about. It says basically that God created the world to have experience, and then what God really is the collection of those experiences. That is a capturing of that. That's what the purpose of it. And if you think about it, is that not what you are about? That you are living your life in such a way as to have experiences. To live is to experience. To really live is to experience greatly. And you're collecting these experiences, and for some of us, we can remember them. At least some of them. And but it's not those memories only, it is the living of it, right? It is the living of this life. Coming back to the Grand Canyon trip that I would do was 225 miles with an average of 1 rapid per mile. So there'd be 225 rapids, and every rapid is formed by a side canyon, and every side canyon is worth exploring. So you have in that Grand Canyon, you have 225 places you could spend a day walking up and exploring and seeing what it's like. Or you could go to the same ones over and over, which it seems like what we did for all the trips. But basically, this is a great metaphor for life itself. 200, let's say, you have 70 years. 70 years with things that can happen along the way. There will be a rapid. Could be a good one, could be a bad one. There will be a peak experience. There will be a place to explore. There will be a place to return to. There will be something constant. There will be the power of life pushing you downstream. There will be more of that. It will grow in intensity and it will shrink in intensity. But every day, for the time you're there, your 70 years, is a chance to experience something. And if you think the destination is what it's about, there's a very good chance you might miss all that was in between. So really what life is about, if you boil it down, is about this whole unfolding of potential and coming to use that potential and enjoy that potential and to experience that potential. And it could be that this theology I was talking about really is true, that the reason you are here in the grand scheme of things is to be the experiencer of the moment you're in. That we are traveling throughout life. Our whole life is a one very long journey, and the really critical thing is not that you're good, but that you're awake. That you pay attention. That you're feeling into, sensing, alert to what's going on, and not walking in your sleep. This changes the nature of life. You know, so many of us were brought up in a tradition, both cultural and religious tradition, that you needed to be good so that you might go someplace. And that place was heaven. That you might get to heaven. And you definitely didn't want to go to the other place. That those were the two options. And life was not about here, but about there. All you had to do was make it through this life, not doing the wrong thing enough, believing the right thing, and you would get there. And then you would have your reward, right? And for many people, when the world was a terrible place, and for much of the history of the world, it was a terrible place for many people, I think much of the time, that made much more sense. But for those of us who are living it in this moment, perhaps we should look at it another way. That the real point of heaven, or this awakened experience in which you have peace and love and joy, is not sometime later, but sometime on the journey. And it's how you do the journey that you have that peace and love. And if heaven was anything, could it really be heaven if it was stagnant? If it stayed, harps on clouds? Not my idea of heaven. No rapids, no side canyons. No. So this invitation to expose yourself to life in a robust and meaningful way, to try really hard to go somewhere, not just so that you will get there, but so that you will try really hard to live. In high school, I was a wrestler, and I remember they handed out awards at the end of the year, and they handed out most valuable wrestler. And I got this award, giant. The guys that got straight A's, small. Wrestler, big, right? They give me this giant trophy, and I've got to say, I was standing on the stage going, what a piece of junk this is. This means nothing. Do you know what I mean? This was... But I still remember the getting there. I still have inside my body the awareness of balance and the ability to use leverage, etc. All that stuff is still in there. That is worth keeping. That is my experience. The destination, if had that been it, I don't think I thought it was where I wanted to go, but it might have been. The journey was what was important. The learning, the effort. That's a hard sport. Most sports are. It's a hard sport, and it requires you to diet while you're trying to do it. It's great for discipline. Too bad it didn't last, but I had it at one time. And this whole process of going for something, but it only happened because I was going for something. So the destination was very important, but getting there was not, if you catch the paradox in that. And so we're in this life, and we may want to awaken. I know some people who are really waiting to awaken. It's like their destination. You know what I mean? I want to be awake. I want to have that experience of transcendence. I want to have that. And for some of us it will come, and for some of us it will never come in this lifetime. What if you said that was all that was really mattered? And you missed all those years hoping for that. What if you had said, I just need to go to heaven, and you missed your whole life? What if you said, I just need to make $1 million, and you missed your whole life? What if you just said, I need to be married, and you missed your whole life? What if you said, I need to be famous, and you missed your whole life? What a shame that would be. You might, and what if you got it and then went, oh my, it's just a trophy. It was the journey that made it worth it. And so this idea of taking your life and making it precious in this moment as it is. It could be precious pain or sadness or grief or a sense of failing or a sense of I'm trying and I'm not getting, or a sense of I want and I'm not there, or I have ambition and it's not fulfilled. It could be, but let it be precious to you. Because it is. It is what's driving us. It is the sadness, the loss, the inadequacy, that is driving us. But it is your life, that it is pulling you into something grander. And so it is not the enemy. nor are the struggles, nor are the difficulties. These are not the enemies. They are the experience. They are the thing we're here for. The stumbling block is the stepping stone. This is how life works. That single cell that started 2 billion years ago would have been happy to stay there if that was adequate. But it wasn't. Life was pulling it into something grander, and it had many obstacles. And evolution, if you've figured it out, evolution is largely about killing off most of them. Right? How many species have gone before us? They're gone. It's a transformative process that takes sacrifice and loss, essentially the destruction of something so something can greater. So if you're having trouble in your life, it is not necessarily you're on the wrong track. You could be on the evolutionary track that's going to lead you to a place where happiness and joy becomes more constant. It could be that the difficulties you have today make you stronger. It could be that which you are longing for is teaching you to open your heart in the place of absence. All things can work together for those who love God. Paul said it. What is God? I mean, it isn't an idol. It isn't an other. It is this life process. It is this world we live in. It is what we can see and what we can't see. It is something that isn't small and definable, but it is this. This is the one presence. And loving this lets all things work together for good. So when you're on the toilet, or when you're on the couch, or when you're flying high, that's this. And if you love it, then you allow it to move you, to keep you moving towards something. The journey continues, not to get to the end point where you no longer have to move, but to expand again. We never come to the end. It may look the same, but it's different because you've changed in the process. Let's talk about another way of thinking about this. There's many of us who decided that we would get married, and this is a great example of this, I think. We decide to get married and we think, ha-ha, I've done it. Cha-ching. And everybody who's been married knows you didn't. That's just the beginning. That's why at graduation they call it a commencement address. It's just the beginning. And you don't get, it's beautiful. The dressing and the presents and the band and the people dancing and everybody's happy. And then you go home. And it begins. And that's not, it's just that we thought that was the end. It's not, it's the beginning. And what makes a marriage is how you live in it. Right? And that's a day-to-day thing. And accumulates, granted, if you get on a good path, it can be a blissful experience. If you get on a bad path, you have to do corrective actions, or it becomes a really painful experience. But it is the experience that is going to carry you into the next step. And I know some people who have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tries at the beginning. And finally they get it. Or they don't. And they have that experience. And they fulfill the niche of experience that all that is must be asking for. So let's take a slightly different point of view. Instead of thinking my life has to be a success according to some paradigm, I have to have X to be happy. Let's say I need to appreciate exactly where I am and the process that's going on for me. And I'm so clear that many of the things that have felt like losses to me have been a winnowing out, a refining of me towards something that has more capacity to appreciate this moment. Have you not found that? That once you have integrated your loss, then what you have becomes so precious. When you're not focused just on the loss, you can now see, oh my God, I have this. Right? Right? We are unfolding. And we think we should be able to control it. And sometimes we do. And sometimes we don't. And it just goes and does what it wants to. To bring us back to the Grand Canyon. Most of the times when I'm running a rapid on the Grand Canyon, I've had success. But I have flipped at least twice there. I flipped twice there, let me rephrase that. Which is an absolute, complete blow-up of everything. Causes an hour of fixing and cleaning. And nobody died, fortunately. But the event was not what I planned. And I was definitely trying to control it. And I failed. But, as a good friend of mine said, no scar, no story. It was instructive toward the future. Never made the same mistake twice on that river. That's how it works. This life is teaching us, unfolding us, expanding us, refining us. And if we can take the idea that this is precious, just as it is, with its ups and its downs, its absences and its fulfillments, if you can take that, then you're like Paul saying, if you love it all, it's all going to work for you. It's all working for you. Right? And that is peace. And that is heaven. That is the destination. When you're at peace, when you're in heaven, and you can love all that is as it is, you've arrived at a destination that's still a journey. Let us pray. So as we sit here in this moment, moving at some incredible speed around a star that's moving at incredible speed around a galaxy that's moving at incredible speed itself, we are always on a journey. And the journey of evolution is always in process, unfolding at this moment like it has always been unfolding. And spiritually, we have been evolving and always have been evolving when we are standing still or when we're moving in life. We're always evolving, so let's be awake to that preciousness of this experience now. And some ways, we are the destination of everything up until this point. And at the same time, we are the journey well beyond here. So let us be awake. Let us find appreciation for this moment. And in so doing, feel the peace that is beyond understanding. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.